Fathers, I've come to tell you that the best gift you can give to your children is your healed self. And yet, to the fathers, the best gift you can give to your children is your presence. There is no school that teaches parenting. At least I haven't found a course unit, or maybe you are admitted for bachelor's of science in what? In parenting, I don't know how it would even be. But somehow, we find ourselves as what? Parents. Some of us, we call it even accidents. Some of us, we prayed, we planned for these children. So we became parents. But in the process of becoming parents, we had our own baggages. The disappointments from the past relationships, from our families, our parents who hurt us, all of that. We didn't take time to heal from all that garbage. So we carried it on. When we became parents, we are parenting our children from trauma. You will find that the restrictions you put on your children are not because they are reasonable, but either that's how you were brought up, or you even tell your children, don't go there, don't do this, just because of your own issues that the children are not even involved in any way. So that one creates a problem, as I will explain to you. And yet, that trauma is passed on to your children, who also grow up with that trauma. They also pass it on until so many generations. One of you in your lineage has to come up and say, enough is enough. I have to question everything in our family. Why was this done this way? And then if you realize that it was from somebody's trauma, then you put an end to it. You decide to heal so that you can parent your children. I call this responsible parenting. There wasn't a mistake. The fathers, you're so busy fetching for the family. We appreciate. But from my own experience, the best things I look up from my father are not what he gave me. Because even if they were toys, I have outgrown them. Everything else, the school fees they paid, we started, we never got the jobs, we are just there hustling in the world. But the only thing I look forward to or back to, and I say, when every time I'm challenged, is I wish I could talk to my dad about this. So the best gift a father can give to a child is your presence in his or her life. Go out, hustle, do the money, but after that, get some time, every day if possible. Okay, occasionally or often, and just spend some time with each one of your children and know what is going on in their lives. Responsible parenting, even when you're just a process of nurturing, guiding, and supporting their children. Now, they only give these three. The first one, you're guiding, supporting children in the physical, emotional, and social development. But from my experience, I have added the spiritual and economic development. And anyway, I will tell you that it requires a safe and loving environment where you can instill values, but also at the same time promote health, communication. I started with my weaknesses in my parenting journey so that you don't look at me as somebody who has come to give you a lecture, yet I don't know anything about. So with all these, still they need a sober and available parent. If you're going to do these things that we've looked at, you need to be sober. I'm not meaning you're mad, but there are those moments where you feel you're just off and all you need is to be by yourself. But remember, you also have these children who are looking up to you. And when they come and I say, mommy, this and this, daddy, this and this, and say, you leave me alone. To them, they go thinking, maybe I am not worthy of daddy's time. And it stays with them until they grow up. So you need to be sober and you need to be available, not only physically, but emotionally what? Present. Emotionally present, that's where the problem is. Because many parents, even me, we've had parents in our homes, but there is no single time you got a challenge and you said, let me go and talk to daddy about this. You're looking for either a friend or a neighbor or something very far. And yet your own parent was just in your house. So I talked about the mother's unhealed trauma. When you have those wounds of yours, those emotional wounds, and yet you're parenting, you're not going to do it intentionally that you're passing it on, but from your thoughts, your actions, unconsciously, you're going to bring it up and it is going to affect your children. And when it has affected your children, it becomes a mother wound. The children experience what we call what? A mother wound. And this mother wound, it is just an attachment trauma that creates a sense of confusion. You know, sometimes you look at your mother, maybe yours. Me, I'm a typical African. Let me talk about myself. And you wonder, is this my mother? Or I was adopted? Now, especially at the teenage time there, that's when we think, maybe I must have been adopted in this family. This cannot be my mother. Especially with children, teenagers. And yet these are our mothers. But the challenge is, maybe they had their own frustrations, and it instills in children these beliefs that make them feel unloved. You find a mother, honestly, is competing with a child over the same things. Let's say maybe father's love. You find, not even intentionally that you're competing, but you find that the words that are coming from her mouth, talking to you, a little girl, you wonder, is this my mother or my co-wife? And sometimes they treat it like, maybe they are not here. I'm talking from my work experience. But anyway, those words that we say, that I say sometimes to my girls, they make them feel that they are unloved, because sometimes it feels like a competition. We are competing for some resources. They feel abandoned, they feel unworthy of care, and even expressing themselves becomes a problem. Because if you come to your parent and the child is trying to tell you something, but they are scared of how you react, but they decided to say, anyway, let me go. And then after telling you they didn't get the other kind of affection, the chances are the next time a problem happens, they are going to fear to talk to you. And that wound will continue with them in their life until they also become parents and they also do the same. And no wonder many of the relationships today are struggling because of such wounds. Now, the father's absence. You know, a father is a protector. Not only physically, but also what? Emotionally. It is you, the man, that teaches your children that emotional safety. But because you have purposed so much on providing for the children only physically and school fees to fit in this world, you've not taken time, some of us, we've not taken time to spend time with them, and so they are struggling. And you know, your absence gives them self-esteem issues. And no wonder, when you're growing up, if you're here and you see yourself still struggling financially, and you try this work, you try that work, and this business, sometimes I want to ask, was your father in your life? Because it was the role of the father to teach me how to negotiate myself in the world out there. But because the father figure was absent, you find that for every deal I want to make or every relationship, I can easily give up. Me, I want people who talk to me softly. If I happen to get a client who is challenging, I'm going to say, you leave, take your order. Because I didn't learn that kind of, how can I call it? Is somebody understanding what I'm saying even? Like, I can be aggressively pursuing my case out there. And you know what? We struggle a lot to make it in life. Other factors constant. But chances are high, when you find yourself struggling so much, like I do, ask yourself whether your father was really in your life or not. Because mothers teach children how to be soft, how to be respectful, how to be polite. But after that, the father comes in and tells the child that, look, the world out there is not as soft as it is at home here. A child will cry, and the mother, after beating the child, will say, okay, sorry, come and have food. But out there, you will find a boss who is not going to mind whether you're sad or not, whether you're okay or not. They expect you to be there, and that's final. And so if you cannot express yourself, you're going to say, I think my boss is very difficult, I'm quitting this job. When were you supposed to learn how to deal with difficult environment? From home, from your father. If they taught you, well and good. If they didn't, sorry. So children from fatherless homes are most likely to be poor. Go and read, this is research. They struggle a lot. Others become involved in drug and alcohol. Most of them drop out of school, and others suffer from health and emotional challenges. Recently, I had one of the children who came to learn tailoring during holidays. She was having glasses all the time, and she used to tell me, my eyes, I don't see very well. So when I sat with this child, I said, when did you start developing this problem of the eyes? And then she said, around then when I was in P3. I said, what was the problem? I don't know. I asked what was happening at home that you didn't want to see. She said, a lot. Actually, the father had left. So because of all that stress, the little mind of this child couldn't process all that stress. And the body had to react by creating an eye problem, sight problem. And so today the girl puts on what? Glasses. Are the eyes sick? No, the girl is stressed. Can I leave you, men? I've happened to go to prisons, but most of the youth in our prisons are youth who didn't have father figures in their lives. And so they become angry at themselves, they become angry at their fathers, they become angry at God, they become angry at the world. And so they decided to go out aggressively, just hitting everything and everyone they meet. Before you know it, they've committed crimes, they are in prisons. You see what a family can do? So if we want to fix this world, we are not going to go out there and start fixing those in prisons. We can start right from our homes by doing what is necessary. Be there for your children. Just be in their lives. After everything has been said, when they happen to grow up, the only thing they are going to treasure are the moments that you spent with them. Not everything you bought for them. Because you see, every season comes with its new things. But a moment with a parent can never be outlived, can never be outgrown. So with responsible parenting, we are going to purpose and become intentional at spending time with our children. The girls become pregnant. Usually, chances are high that if there was a lack of a father figure in the girl's life, They didn't teach them that kind of self-love, because a father is a daughter's first love. It is this man to first look at the girl and tell her you're beautiful. I told you the other time, most of you know my story, that my first boyfriend I got was in P6. And the only thing that attracted me to him really was just telling me I had nice legs. Just as simple as that. And I'm like, oh, wow. I didn't sleep that night. I was just thinking about that comment. But I thank God that God protected me. I didn't get so much spoiled. But what attracted me to this man was just a comment about my what? My legs. I wish I had had that from my father. It wouldn't have been a surprise to hear it from a stranger. It would have been just normal and say, okay, thank you. But to me, it was a big thing. And when a father is missing in a girl's life, they grow up with that void, that emptiness within them. No wonder when they become teenagers, campusers, the men they are going to date are as old as their fathers. Not because they love them, but because they have the other longing for a father figure in their lives. So if you have a girl, if you have a daughter, please, if you're giving, I don't know, but let me leave it at that. Just spend more time with your children. Poor parenting can be passed on from generation to generation, because you are the only book your children will read about parenting. Most of the things you do, unless you have gone out and you're exposed, just as a high, the things you do in your home are what was done in your home back there. So when you're giving an example to your children, give them the best one, that you will be proud to see even in your grandchildren. Hurt people. Even the earlier on preacher talked about it. Hurt people, hurt what? People. Because you were hurt in your home, you're going to hurt your children intentionally or unintentionally. And even the reason why those people who hurt you was because they were hurting themselves. So when you learn that, you learn grace. When somebody hurts you, instead of fuming and ask, how could they? I wish you would ask what was happening in their lives when they did that. When you ask that, you realize that even the anger, the rage that you are having about them somehow does what? Comes down, and you start wondering, what problem were they having? Most of these people are hurting. Actually, they are dying inside themselves. And they don't know any other better way to deal with their stress apart from being violent. And that's how they happen to meet you and they hurt you. You just became a victim of circumstance. Responsible parenting is what? Intentional. You're going to decide and be intentional. Yes, you have to look for the money, you have to feed the family, you have to do everything, but you also have to be there for your children. Most of our parents, especially when we were growing up, I don't know you guys, you would hear these statements like, you children, you don't know how much I am sacrificing for you. If it were not for you, I wouldn't even be in this marriage. Who brought you there? And so the children are at home with you. They are happy. They are grateful that you're doing everything. You can't take care of them. But you can't stop kubalangira. That you're there, you're suffering, you're tolerating all of the abuse because of them. We need you to be happy. Not being there because of us. And you make children pay for the decisions that you made yourself. You decided to stay in that marriage. I'm not saying you have another way out. No, I've not said that. But I'm saying being happy and being sad is a choice. If you have found yourself, and things go bad sometimes, and most times in marriages, I understand, even in relationships, you don't know how much I have struggled. That is a story for another day. But my issue is, if you've decided to stay there and make your staying there a memorable for the children. They don't know anything. They don't know even when it started and how it started. It's you who chose, because at the end of the day, nobody chooses to have a what? A parent. Nobody has a choice of who is to produce them. You did. You chose the other parent. They just found themselves there. And then you make it a point every day. Every time you get annoyed, you can't forget to tell them how you're suffering because of them. And let me leave it as that. When we look at the definition of responsible parenting, they said it involves nurturing, guiding, and supporting children in the physical, emotional, and social what? Development. Anybody would have told you this about parenting. And so in the physical support, I'm here to tell you that it's not about buying clothes and what. But let's start from the basics. The food you feed to your children, because they don't want to eat greens, because you have the money, and so you can afford taking your children out every after 2 days. But what do you feed them on? Junk food. And within a few years, the children are suffering from diseases of old people. By the time they make 20s and 30s, they are suffering from lifestyle what? Diseases. Where would they have gotten them from? From your house, because of that too much love you had. Because you can afford it. So you fed your children on only junk what? Food. The other week, I made a video on breastfeeding, and somebody told me nkobyenyo. But sometimes, I don't know how to pretend. Everybody who knows me in person knows that I don't know how to pretend. If it is A, I will tell you it is A, and I move on, and you deal with your consequences. And me, I go. Because honestly speaking, dear mothers, because we are busy, I understand. But when you feed your child on animal food, I mean on a jessa, on a diary, how do they call it? What else apart from the jessa? Okay, the cow's milk. As old, your baby is just 1 month old, and you have to go back to work. We appreciate. But the only food you've left at home for this child is animal food, which is meant, what is the use of breast milk? For the development of the physical and even the what? The brain. And so you give your child animal food, and you expect them to grow up and reason like a human being when their brain is made up of animal what? And when you see the lousiness among the youth, me sometimes I just sit there and I observe. I look and I say, this is just a cow playing around. Honestly, sometimes you look at children and you say, these are simply cows in human bodies. And then you start disturbing them. You're very stubborn. They are not listening. They are what? But what did you feed them on to grow up? To think like you? A human being who was breastfed for 2 years? And even after that, you used to go outside and play and get the sunshine. That's how you became a human being, because you related with human beings. But your child, from the animal milk, animal food, then to cartoons on TV, you people. And then you can afford it. You give them a smartphone, and all they are relating with is cartoons and animal food. Your children, don't like even to eat the greens, the health food. No, when they cry, you bring yogurt. When they cry again, you bring ice cream. What is that? Let me leave it. But I'm sure you have understood. So when you decide to parent your children, please be intentional even on the food you feed them. Because after that, a few years from that, they will suffer from the consequences of the poor feeding they experienced as children. And then you will spend a lot of money in the hospitals, treating old people's problems, sicknesses, lifestyle diseases. Thank you. Is that clear? Then the emotional support. This is what I was starting with. We have those unhealed traumas. Please show no resentment towards the other parent. I know it is hard. Even me, myself, if I was in your shoes, I would understand. But let your problems stay your problems. At the end of the day, no person who hates their parent is happy with themselves. Because at the end of the day, their image is living in you. When you hate your parent, you're simply hating your what? Yourself. Well, so when you pass on your propaganda to your children and they hate the other parent, for example, if they are hating their father, chances are high they are going to struggle with self-esteem. And if they are hating their mother, chances are high they are going to suffer with self-love. They will always grow up. They can take up any abuse. They can tolerate any toxic behavior because that's what they learned from you. So when you have those problems of yours, try to fix them as adults, but leave your children to interact with the other what? Parent. Because there is nothing you can ever do to fill the gap of the other parent's what? Position in their lives. Keep your children out of your conflicts. And if you have separated, sorry about that, but you separated from a spouse, not your children. Is that clear? So if you separate from your spouse, please take your responsibility in the lives of what? Of your children. You can get married again, you can get another spouse, but the children will never get another parent. Even when you get married and you bring them and they are loved, that will be a stepfather. That will be a stepmom. It is never the same experience. No matter how much we try to sugarcoat it, there is always that difference. Is that clear? Yes, set clear, concise, and constant boundaries. With character, we love them because we don't want anybody to touch them, so we can't discipline them. They have maids all over. When they disturb the maids and the maids try to discipline them, you get angry. You don't want the maid to discipline your children, but you're not there yourself. You don't have the time to sit. If you were there, you would know that actually these children are stubborn, and you would even beat them yourself. But because you're not there, so you don't want anybody else, not even your neighbor, to tell your children, here, you're doing wrong. But even we know from the Bible that the Lord disciplines those he does what? So let discipline be part of our parenting. Mind your behavior and language around them. If you make any promise to them, keep it. Otherwise, you're teaching them that it is okay to promise and you not do what? Fulfill. This is especially with parents who are separated. You come and tell your children that I will visit you next week. And next week comes, the children are anticipating, and you're nowhere to be seen. They start saying, okay, maybe we are not that important to our parent. With social support, the biggest reason why our children and youth are much addicted to gadgets is because of boredom and reduced social and physical activity. You remember when you were growing up, you enjoyed running around. You enjoyed going out with neighbors to play and what. I understand the generation has changed and we no longer have that time. But keeping your children indoors all throughout, just relating with cartoons and phones and what, is not healthy for them. And even when you take them, you take them to school, they are in boarding. As early as nursery, P1, your child is in boarding, and they are being pushed to class from morning, even in the night. What is that? When will the children play and relax their minds and just refresh and be children? The reason why you are the way you are now, and we are proud of you, is because of the way you were parented. You took a lot of time out in outdoor activities. Yours, they don't even know how the neighbor looks like because they will be spoiled. So they don't know that actually when you meet an old person, you greet them. They don't know that. You respect, they don't know anything. So what has that done? They are addicted to phones, video games, and all types of gadgets. So the next time, the best gift, another best gift you can give your children is letting them know God and be grounded in His Word and know that God loves them regardless. Whether they have gone astray, whether they have done what, God still loves them as He loved them before. You can even teach them that sometimes you are a human being, you get annoyed, but with God, when we get annoyed and we repent, He forgives us. I told you I chased my girls out of my house, and I let them know the reasons why, and I waited for them to see if any of them can apologize. Only one apologized, and that is the one I am having right now. When others make their minds and they see the wrong they did, we shall negotiate that. But when you're disciplining them, even God, they have to know that even God disciplines. You have to be firm. Set rules and say, this is it. Even when I am laughing, even when we are playing, even when I'm not. Let them know there is time for playing, but they also have to know that you are the parent. And there is nothing around that. So the last one that I included myself is financial what? Support. The situation has changed. In Africa, we parent children so that when they grow up, they take care of us. It is okay. But the challenge is the people you're expecting to take care of you are not even able to take care of themselves. And because you provided a lot for them, maybe you didn't take time to teach them that actually out there you can study, get the first-class degree, but fail to get a job. So what is the next plan? What else can they do? Those are the things you're supposed to teach them as a parent. So accountability, responsibility, saving, and investment are virtues learned from home. Is that clear, dear parents? The church, I ask the elders to come in. If you know that we have single mothers, they are suffering, they are struggling with raising up children, we know it. Let's come up with a mentorship program. We understand that Jesus is coming, and it is true. It is a fact. But until then, we have to live here. And we can't live here struggling and crying, and we expect a happy heaven. I saw a post on social media which said that if you're struggling to parent here, and yet you're sowing seed in church so that you save, you keep for yourself mansions in heaven, then you better go home and live in your mansion. Because honestly, we have to live. So let us help. Let us come in the way we can. You are the elder, you are the man, and you know there is a neighbor who is struggling. Let's not judge. Let's come in and we teach our what? Our children, collectively, as it used to be. And a lot, it is okay to take a break when you feel it is too much. Take a break. Work on you. Normalize having family therapists. I told you our children have lots of secrets they can't share with us, but they would have shared with somebody else if they felt safe. So it's okay to have family therapists, just like we have what? Family doctors. Be the father and mother figures. Church members, it's not like it is not my business. Your neighbor's child is your child. When you see them going astray in any way, take the responsibility. If the mother or the father rebukes you, it's okay, but you will have done your what? Your part. So let love and support override. Let us work on ourselves Because when we do, the family is the smallest unity of what? Of society. When we get better ourselves, we raise responsible children and who go out there and become responsible citizens, and tomorrow we shall have responsible leaders, and the world will become a better place for us to live. Thank you so much.